Today, a teenager made his first appearance in juvenile court after being charged with murder in connection with the mass shooting that occurred last August at a Minneapolis backyard concert that was a gathering space for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer members of our community. The teenager charged today was 17 years old at the time of the incident. These charges are the result of a collaborative investigation by the Minneapolis Police Department and the Hennepin County Attorney's Office. Our two offices have worked together since this tragic shooting occurred last August to review evidence and to prepare the cases for charging. I'm grateful for the collaboration between the senior attorneys in our office that spent considerable time working on this investigation. Although it has been 8 months since this tragedy occurred, we have been persistent throughout this time to work with our law enforcement partners and seek accountability. We have not forgotten about Nicholas Golden, who was murdered that day, and the other victims who were significantly harmed. This shooting at what should have been a joyous event rocked our LGBTQA+ community and increased fear among a community that is too often already under attack. We've not charged this as a crime motivated by bias. As you know, prosecutors don't have to prove motivation. But I want to acknowledge that there were hateful and hurtful comments made during this incident. There's no doubt about that. This case remains under investigation, and we firmly commit to doing what we do in every case, which is to do everything in our power to understand the facts and prosecute the case appropriately. We are committed to holding those who caused this harm accountable, to offering, as we already have, our office's resources to those who have been impacted by this senseless violence, and to continuing the urgent work of addressing gun violence in our community. We have filed a motion in this case to have adult certification studies completed. These studies will provide us with important information that we need to decide whether to seek to have the case moved to adult court. We will also engage with the victims as this case proceeds. This is the process that we have used in all cases when the person charged was younger than 18 at the time of the incident and the case warrants consideration of certification. Today's filings mark the beginning of this process, and no decision will be made until the process is complete. All of our neighbors have the right to live authentically and free from threats of violence, and that includes members of the LGBTQIA+ community. The individuals at this concert were enjoying a beautiful summer evening, great music, and good company, just like so many of us do during summertime in Minnesota. Violence like this strikes fear into the hearts of all of us. It makes us fearful to live our lives, and it has deeply impacted our LGBTQIA+ community. Everyone should feel and be safe when they come to Hennepin County. We are committed to using all available and appropriate tools to enhance the safety for every resident in our community. Our pursuit of this goal is tireless and foundational to all of the work of our office. Thank you. Questions?
Yeah, just Mary, why not just take a stronger stance? He's 18 now, it's a horrific crime. He involved is the allegation. You could come out here and say today, we're going to adult certification. Why not be a little bit more firm and show this community that you're going to hold this young man accountable to the fullest extent of the law?
I absolutely know we will hold this young man and the other young man accountable. But our process is to look at each and every individual as an individual and wait until we get the certification study, the psychological reports, and talk to the people who've been harmed by this tragedy.
Can you talk about what's been going on with the second suspect?
So we did file this a couple of weeks ago, and we filed it under seal. We did that because it makes law enforcement's job safer. When a person who is suspected of a crime doesn't know that we have actually charged them. So right now, law enforcement partners continue to search for the other young man.
Can you say more about how old he is? Any other information?
17.
17 then or 17 now?
He was 17 at the time, is my understanding.
Mary, just,
He was under 18, let me put it that way.
I know you alluded to, working together with MPD, but the investigation, involves DNA off cigarette butts in the complaint. Just, it seems like it took some pretty good investigative work to get this case to your office. Would you agree?
So in cases now when we have video, and we do have video in many places where we never used to have video, many times it takes a lot of looking at video, putting video together. As is often in cases, identification is an issue. Sometimes in this particular situation, the two young people were not known to the people at this party, in this concert. And so often we have to put together a lot of different information to piece it all together to make sure that we are prosecuting the right people. Yes?
They don't know where the whereabouts of the second suspect is? Is that what you were saying?
You know, we are still wanting this to be safe for law enforcement, so I won't comment further on that.
Could you speak to the decision, the hate crime aspect to this, and
Yes.
how that process plays out?
Yeah. I mentioned that all of you know, but this might not be true. It is a surprise to some people. Prosecutors do not have to prove motivation in most cases. And that's because it's extremely difficult to prove, and remember, it's beyond a reasonable doubt, why somebody committed a crime, what motivated them to commit a crime. We ask ourselves that frequently. Why did this happen? And sometimes there just is no explanation. The way the law works is that if we actually charge a crime motivated by bias, we then have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the reason, what motivated this shooting was bias. We know that there were biased comments made. That's clear. What we don't believe at this moment is that we have enough information to know whether the crime itself was motivated by those hateful comments. But we acknowledge we have that in the complaint, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to say we know these comments were made. It doesn't make this crime any less tragic, any less hurtful for people in the community. In fact, it makes it very difficult. I know there's been a conversation in the community about, were we targeted because of our identity? And that's really difficult. And we may never know the answer to that, as we don't know the answer in many of the cases we charge. But we do know that there were hateful and hurtful comments made during the time this young man was at the party. Yeah, I can't speak to that complaint, which is still under seal.
Any indication of who fired which gun? Because I know one had like significantly more gunshots.
Yeah, at this point I don't want to get into the specific details. And I do want to remind people, these are two young people, and just like everybody who we prosecute, they are presumed to be innocent. And so we try to limit the comments on what we believe happened. And I'll just let the petition itself stand on its own.
I was wondering if you could speak to the time frame, because obviously this happened quite a bit of time ago. It sounds like there was a lot of people, a lot of factors that went into bringing this to that.
Can you say more about what?
Yeah, could you speak to what's been happening the last 6, 7, 8 months to finally come to this day?
Right. We have been working with MPD, giving them ideas, and they have been following up. They've been doing some of their own investigation. We've had conversations with them about what we need to prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt. Our senior attorneys have looked through all of the video. As I said before, cases now can be very complicated by the fact that we have to use a lot of video. And it can be piecing together different videos. And so our office has worked with MPD all through that time to try to make sure that we got a case that we felt confident in, and when we felt confident that we could prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt, we brought charges. So just in general, as you saw today, the petition against this young man who appeared in court today remained sealed until today. Thank you.